What Queen Camilla realized behind the soundproof doors of the palace briefing room was that her signature no longer held the authority of the crown. It took less than 2 minutes for her to scan the newly revised institutional registry and see that her name had been completely removed from the Oversight Committee of the Royal Trust Funds. Instead of a public confrontation, she was met with a pristine, unaltered document bearing only the unyielding seal of Princess Anne. This is the story of a secret financial power grab that met the ultimate immovable wall of royal discipline. By the end of this video, you will understand how a quiet attempt to divert institutional resources was dismantled in a matter of days. We will unpack the exact paper trail Camilla attempted to establish under the guise of routine administrative updates, the precise moment the Princess Royal intervened, and the silent, ruthless deployment of administrative protocol that left the Queen Consort utterly isolated within her own court, facing the devastating realization that her power was entirely conditional. To truly comprehend the depth of this tactical defeat, one must look at the immense confidence Camilla had accumulated over 3 decades of calculated patience. She had survived the dark years of public condemnation, transitioned smoothly into the role of Queen Consort, and positioned herself as the indispensable emotional anchor for King Charles during his most challenging health battles. In the corridors of power, she felt untouchable. She operated under the belief that her proximity to the monarch grounded her. An unwritten veto over family matters and a permanent share in the governance of the royal estates. This illusion of total security blinded her to the reality that the British monarchy is governed not by emotion, but by an ancient, rigid system of rules designed to protect the bloodline at all costs. For years, Camilla had quietly worked to soften the boundaries between the royal family and her own biological lineage. Observers noticed her children and grandchildren receiving unprecedented access to sovereign spaces, subtly blending into the background of historic state occasions. Behind the scenes, this was part of a larger, long-term strategy to normalize their presence within the inner circle of the monarchy. Camilla believed that by rendering her family indispensable to Charles, she could secure their social and financial future permanently, effectively rewriting the traditional rules of royal succession and privilege to accommodate her own court. The trigger for this crisis was an administrative overreach born of growing urgency. Sensing that the political landscape within the palace was shifting, Camilla initiated a quiet maneuver to alter the distribution of specific discretionary funds within the privy purse and the family's private trusts. The objective was to create an independent pipeline of resources securing long-term tenancies and financial guarantees for her inner circle that could bypass the traditional oversight of the future monarch. What looked like a routine administrative update was actually a total dismantling of the traditional financial firewalls. A desperate bid to ensure her family would remain financially tethered to the sovereign estates long after the current reign concluded, but that detail matters because it directly crossed into territory guarded by the most formidable gatekeeper of the Windsor dynasty. Princess Anne has spent a lifetime serving as the institutional conscience of the royal family, a woman who values duty, tradition, and fiscal discipline above all personal or marital affections. When a routine audit of the household's discretionary allocations flagged the unusual modifications to the trust registries, the Princess Royal recognized the paperwork for exactly what it was: an unauthorized encroachment on the sovereign reserves, an attempt to treat the resources of the crown as a personal corporate entity for private benefit. That is where the story changes. Princess Anne did not call for an emotional family meeting, nor did she approach her brother with anger. Instead, she chose to weaponize the very bureaucracy Camilla had sought to manipulate, utilizing her unique authority as the head of multiple royal trusts and her position as the king's most trusted confidant on institutional matters, Anne quietly initiated a comprehensive counter-strategy. She ordered a strict literal enforcement of the ancient bylaws governing royal property, effectively freezing the proposed financial changes before they could be officially ratified or legally binding. The institutional retaliation was executed with chilling efficiency and total silence. Camilla arrived at what she believed would be a standard confirmation meeting, only to find the paperwork entirely rewritten and her access to the decision-making board completely revoked. There were no arguments, no raised voices, and no public leaks. There was only the cold reality of a system resetting itself to its original factory settings. The Queen Consort was left holding a stack of unsigned, worthless papers, realizing that every administrative path she had attempted to build had been cleanly and quietly cut off by a sister-in-law who required no permission to protect the crown. The true depth of the trap became clear when Camilla sought to reverse the decision, demanding an explanation for her sudden exclusion from the trust registry. But as she prepared to take the matter directly to the king, she was met not with an apology, but with a cold, unyielding wall of protocol. The document she held was not a mistake, it was an official decree, and the terrifying truth began to dawn on her that this silent strike could not have occurred without the implicit agonizing consent of the sovereign himself. The silence in the king's private quarters was not born of weakness, but of a chilling institutional pragmatism. When Camilla presented the rejected trust documents to Charles, expecting the righteous fury of a husband defending his wife, she was met instead with the tired, resolute gaze of a monarch who had already made his choice. Charles did not reprimand Princess Anne, nor did he offer to reinstate Camilla's name on the Oversight Committee by doing absolutely nothing. The king confirmed the most devastating truth of all he had allowed his sister to spring the trap. He recognized that Anne's ruthless administrative strike was necessary to protect the structural integrity of the monarchy from his own wife's overreach. In that agonizingly quiet room, the illusion of Camilla's absolute control over the sovereign evaporated, leaving her to face the cold reality of her isolated position. This definitive rejection forces a brutal reckoning with what can only be described as commercial desperation. To the untrained eye, Queen Camilla is draped in the unimaginable wealth of the British Empire, but the forensic reality of the royal ledger reveals a staggering vulnerability. The crown estate the sovereign grants, and the private royal trusts do not belong to her. She is not a beneficiary, she is a dependent. By attempting to weave her non-royal children into the fabric of the institutional trusts, she was trying to cure this very vulnerability, seeking a permanent financial foothold before the inevitable transition of power. Princess Anne's bureaucratic embargo did not just stop a transaction, it exposed the staggering reality that without the king's active defiance of his own family, Camilla essentially owns nothing of the royal apparatus. Her family's access to their security and their prestige are entirely leased, subject to immediate cancellation by the bloodline royals who actually hold the keys. As Camilla's silent financial eviction was finalized, a new order began to visually and administratively assert itself, spearheaded by an unbreakable alliance between Princess Anne and the Prince and Princess of Wales. What we are witnessing is the systematic institutional correction of the Windsor hierarchy. With Camilla's quiet power grab dismantled, Catherine's elevation has become even more pronounced. The subtle indicators are everywhere, for those who know how to read the language of the court. Viewers and royal analysts have noticed striking changes in the distribution of the royal collection. A spectacular heritage necklace heavily associated with the late Queen and fiercely guarded by Anne recently made its debut on Catherine despite rumours that Camilla had previously requested it. That detail matters. It is a visual broadcast that the true matriarchal authority of the crown has entirely bypassed the current Queen Consort, flowing directly into the hands of the woman who will next hold the title. These shifts are not accidental, they are the weaponized protocol of a family that has survived 1,000 years of internal warfare. We see it in the slight adjustments to the court circular, where the presence of Camilla's biological family is no longer logged with the same quasi-royal prominence. We see it in the quiet removal of integrated family portraits from the public-facing reception rooms, replaced by stark historic imagery of the direct line of succession. There is no shouting, no public humiliation, and no tabloid scandal generated from the palace. Instead, there is the silent, devastating application of administrative rules that slowly but surely erases the footprint of an ambitious outsider. The story of Princess Anne's final trap is a masterclass in how institutional power actually functions. It is a reminder that proximity to the throne does not equal possession of it, and that the illusion of influence can be dismantled with a single, unauthorized signature. As the royal machinery closes ranks around William and Catherine, the Queen Consort is left to navigate a gilded cage where her title remains, but her empire has been quietly dismantled. If you found this forensic analysis of royal power dynamics compelling, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments. How do you think these silent institutional wars will shape the future of the British monarchy?